The champagne flute felt cold against my palm, too cold, like the smiles around me, like the applause that had just erupted when my husband stood up to make his surprise announcement. I watched him from across the conference room, my conference room, the one I'd designed when I founded Morrison & Associates 15 years ago. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Seattle, the skyline I'd worked 70-hour weeks to afford. Every piece of furniture, every award on the walls, every client relationship that built this company mine. And now, at my own retirement party, surrounded by 100 colleagues and clients, David was standing at the podium with that smile I used to love, the one that now made my stomach turn. "As many of you know," he said, his voice carrying that practiced executive charm, "Rachel has decided to step back from the day-to-day operations of the firm. After 15 incredible years of building Morrison & Associates into the premier consulting firm it is today, she's earned her rest." The room applauded. I forced my lips into something resembling a smile. "But don't worry," David continued, and I saw his hand gesture towards someone in the crowd. "We have an exceptional succession plan in place. Please join me in welcoming the new managing partner of Morrison & Associates, Marcus Chen." Marcus stood up, looking sharp in his custom suit. My business partner of 12 years. The man I'd mentored, promoted, trusted with every major decision. He waved to the crowd, and they cheered louder. My grip tightened on the glass. And David wasn't done. As many of you also know, Marcus and I have been working closely over the past year on the future direction of this firm, with Rachel's blessing, of course. That was a lie. But I didn't correct him, not yet. So I'm thrilled to announce that effective immediately, I'll be joining Morrison & Associates as Chief Strategy Officer. Marcus and I have big plans for where we're taking this company. The applause was deafening now. I watched faces I'd known for years, colleagues, clients, people I'd hired, people whose careers I'd built, clapping enthusiastically as my husband announced he was taking over the company I'd built. The company I'd supported him through his own failed ventures to create. The company I'd kept out of our marital assets to protect, or so I'd thought. My assistant, Jennifer Sweet, 26-year-old Jennifer, whom I'd hired fresh out of grad school, stood up next to Marcus. She was glowing. "We're also excited to share some personal news," she said, her voice bright. "Marcus proposed last night, and I said yes." The room erupted again. People rushed to congratulate them. Through the crowd, I caught Marcus's eye. For just a second, his smile faltered. He knew I could see right through this. "Rachel?" My husband appeared at my elbow, his hand possessively on my shoulder. "Aren't you going to congratulate them?" I looked up at him, studied the face I'd woken up next to for 18 years, the man I'd put through business school, the man whose credit I'd rebuilt when his first startup crashed. The man who'd had unlimited access to our joint accounts while I'd been too busy building an empire to notice where the money was actually going. "Of course," I said quietly. "Congratulations to everyone." David's smile widened. He thought he'd won. They all did. He leaned down, his voice low enough only I could hear. "You should give a speech, honey. Say something gracious. This is your party, after all." I set down my champagne glass, picked up the small clutch purse I'd carried in. Inside was a USB drive, just a tiny piece of plastic and metal that contained everything. "You're right," I said. "I should say something." I walked to the podium, and the room quieted. Faces turned toward me, expectant. Most of them genuine, I thought. They didn't know. They thought this was a normal succession, a planned retirement, a happy next chapter. "Thank you all for coming," I began. My voice was steady. "I'd practiced this. 15 years ago, I started this company in a one-room office with nothing but a laptop and a phone line. I built it through recession, through market crashes, through every challenge this industry could throw at me." Nods around the room. They knew this story. I built it while supporting my husband through his own career transitions. I built it while being told repeatedly that women couldn't succeed in this field, that I was too young, too idealistic, too ambitious. Some uncomfortable shifting now. This wasn't the gracious retirement speech they'd expected. "I built it," I continued, "with the help of people I trusted, people I mentored, people I brought into my vision and gave opportunities they wouldn't have had anywhere else. I plugged the USB drive into the laptop, connected to the projector. Marcus's face had gone pale. David started moving toward me, but the crowd was too thick. But about 18 months ago, I started noticing some irregularities. Small things at first. Client accounts being reassigned without my approval. Financial reports that didn't quite add up. Strategy meetings I wasn't invited to. The first slide appeared on the screen behind me. An email chain. Marcus to David. She's completely checked out lately. Too focused on the day-to-day to see the bigger picture. Once we have her sign the succession documents, we can restructure everything. Gasps rippled through the crowd. So I hired a forensic accountant, I said calmly, and a private investigator, and I started paying very close attention. Next slide. Bank statements. Transfers from company accounts to a shell corporation. David's name on the ownership documents. Turns out, my husband and my business partner have been systematically draining company resources for the past 14 months. Moving client relationships to a competing firm they registered under a holding company. A firm they planned to launch the moment I signed over my controlling shares. Marcus was pushing through the crowd now, his face red. "Rachel, this is completely inappropriate." "Sit down, Marcus." My voice cut through his protests. The room was dead silent now. "Or, I'll show everyone the photos of you and Jennifer in the Bahamas last month. The trip you said was a solo strategy retreat." He froze. Jennifer made a small sound. She hadn't known. I could see it in her face. She genuinely thought Marcus was divorced, that their relationship had started after his separation. She didn't know he was still married, that his wife was waiting for him at home, that she was just another piece of the con. "You see," I continued, turning back to the crowd, "they thought I was distracted, burned out, ready to sign over my life's work for a handshake and a gold watch, and I let them think that." New slide. Legal documents. Incorporation papers for Chen Morrison Strategic Consulting filed 6 months ago, with David listed as co-founder. I let them think I hadn't noticed that half our biggest clients were being groomed for transition. I let them think I didn't see the phantom expenses, the redirected retainers, the carefully constructed paper trail designed to make it look like the company was failing under my leadership. David had stopped trying to reach me. He stood in the middle of the crowd, his face ashen. And I smiled now, let David think I'd agreed to his suggestion that we restructure our marital assets, that I'd signed the papers his lawyer drew up, putting me on a consulting retainer while he took over financial decision-making for both the firm and our personal accounts. I turned to look directly at my husband. "Remember those papers you were so pleased about, David? The ones that would protect my retirement while letting the business grow under new leadership?" He couldn't speak. "I had my own lawyer review them first. Interesting how they would have given you full control of my company shares while providing me with absolutely no equity protection. Even more interesting how they included a clause that would have nullified our prenup, the one that kept Morrison and Associates as my sole property." The room was completely silent now. You could have heard a pin drop. "So, I didn't sign your papers, David. I signed different ones. Papers that my lawyer prepared. Papers that transferred your signing authority on all joint accounts to me. Papers that formalized our separation and initiated divorce proceedings. Papers that you never bothered to actually read because you were so confident I'd just do whatever you told me to." I clicked to the next slide. Divorce filing. Date stamped 3 months ago. "And Marcus," I turned to him now, "those succession documents you're so excited about? The ones that make you managing partner? I have bad news." His jaw tightened. "They're valid. You are now the managing partner of Morrison and Associates. Congratulations." I paused. The company that, as of today, has exactly 3 clients remaining, all of whom I personally signed contracts with in the past 6 weeks, moving them to my new firm. Confusion rippled through the crowd. "You see, while you were busy stealing my clients, I was busy creating something new. Morrison Strategic Partners, my new consulting firm, officially launched this morning. We have offices in Seattle, San Francisco, and New York. We have 23 senior consultants, all former Morrison and Associates employees who were smart enough to see which way the wind was blowing. And we have every major client this firm has built relationships with over the past 15 years. I clicked through slides now, showing executed contracts, signed agreements, transfer documents, As for Morrison and Associates, you're welcome to it. You're now the proud managing partner of a company with massive overhead, a 3-year office lease, and virtually no revenue stream. I believe your first act should probably be figuring out how to pay back the $200,000 you and David embezzled. My lawyers have already filed the paperwork with the State Bar Association. Marcus's knees seemed to give out. He grabbed the back of a chair. But Rachel, David finally found his voice. You can't just, we're still married. Community property laws are very clear in Washington state. I finished for him. Which is why my lawyer made sure to document that every penny I've earned and every asset I've built with Morrison Strategic Partners occurred after our separation date. You're entitled to exactly half of our marital assets, the house with the underwater mortgage you refinanced without telling me, the leased cars in your name, and the contents of our joint checking account. I smiled. All $800 of it. Someone in the crowd laughed. Then someone else. Then the tension broke, and half the room was laughing while the other half stared in shock. As for you, Jennifer, I said, more gently now, you should know that Marcus is still very much married. His wife Laura is a kindergarten teacher. They have 2 kids. And no, he wasn't separated. I had lunch with Laura last week. Lovely woman. She'll be filing her own divorce papers shortly, and she now has copies of all the same financial documents I have. I believe her lawyer is very interested in the question of where Marcus got the money for your engagement ring. Jennifer had tears streaming down her face. She looked at Marcus, who couldn't meet her eyes. I unplugged the USB drive and put it back in my purse. I want to thank everyone who came tonight, I said, especially those of you who are joining me at Morrison Strategic Partners. We have a lot of exciting work ahead of us, and I promise you it's going to be built on integrity, transparency, and actual partnership. I stepped away from the podium. The crowd parted as I walked through. Some people reached out to touch my arm, to whisper congratulations, to press business cards into my hand. Others just stared. As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. David and Marcus stood in the middle of the room like statues. The party continued around them in shocked whispers and excited conversations, but they were frozen. Everything they'd planned, everything they'd schemed for, gone in 15 minutes. Oh, and David? I called across the room. I had the locks changed on the house this morning. Your things are in storage unit 247 at Public Storage on Aurora. You have 30 days before I stop paying the rental fee. I walked out into the Seattle evening. The air was cool and clean. My phone was already buzzing with messages, former clients reaching out, colleagues wanting to connect, reporters asking for comments. But I ignored them all for now. Instead, I pulled up the one message I'd been waiting for. From my lawyer, partnership papers filed. Morrison Strategic Partners is officially active. Congratulations, Rachel. I smiled. A real smile this time. Not the one I'd been wearing like armor all night. Behind me, in that conference room, they were probably still trying to figure out what happened. Still trying to understand how I'd known, how I'd planned, how I'd pulled off the greatest magic trick of all, making them think they'd won, right up until the moment they lost everything. The truth was simpler than they'd ever realize. I'd learned a long time ago that the most dangerous thing you could do was underestimate a woman who'd built something from nothing. Who'd fought for every inch of ground, every client, every success, who'd been told she couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't, and did it anyway. They thought 15 years of marriage meant David knew me. They thought 12 years of partnership meant Marcus understood me. They thought I was too tired, too complacent, too grateful to fight back. They were wrong. I'd spent 18 months planning this. 18 months documenting every transaction, every secret meeting, every whispered conversation they thought I couldn't hear. 18 months building a new company in stealth mode, recruiting the best people, securing the most important clients, constructing a future that didn't include either of them. And I'd enjoyed every minute of it. Not because I wanted revenge. Revenge was small, petty, temporary. No, I'd enjoyed it because I was good at it. Because building things, creating value, outsmarting people who thought they were smarter than me, that was what I did best. That was who I was. I walked to my car, the one I'd bought last month, and registered under my new company, the one David didn't even know existed, and drove out of the parking garage for the last time. Tomorrow, I'd move into the new office, the one with better views, better energy, better everything. Tomorrow, I'd start the next chapter with people I'd personally vetted, personally chosen, personally trusted to build something real. Tonight, I was going home to my new apartment, the one I'd been secretly renting for 3 months, the one David had never been to, and I was going to order the most expensive bottle of wine I could find and toast myself. Because I'd won. Not just the company, not just the divorce, not just the satisfaction of watching their faces as everything crumbled. I'd won myself back. The woman I was before I'd spent years making myself smaller, quieter, more convenient. The woman who'd built an empire and then almost let mediocre men dismantle it. Never again. My phone rang. It was Laura, Marcus's wife. "Did you really do it?" she asked when I answered. "Every word," I said. "You're my hero." She was laughing and crying at the same time. "I can't believe, Rachel, you saved me. You saved both of us." "We saved ourselves," I corrected gently. "I just provided the information. You're the one who's choosing to act on it." "When this is over," she said, "when the lawyers are done and the dust settles, can we be friends? Real friends?" I smiled. "I'd like that." We said goodbye. And I drove through the city I loved, in the car I'd earned, toward the life I'd built. Not the one they'd tried to give me. Not the one they'd thought I deserved. The one I'd fought for. And as I pulled into the parking garage of my new building, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at me wasn't tired anymore, wasn't defeated, wasn't someone's wife or someone's business partner or someone's anything. She was just Rachel. And Rachel was just getting started.